Hi there, my name's Bella and I'm one of the Everbility team members, and today I'm going to talk through creating a template. So let's say, for example, this document here that I have in a Word document is how I would like my template to be generated, or how I'd like my report to be generated. So this is what the final product is. What I can do is first, what I need to do is I need to highlight all of this document. And then I'm going to come into Everbility, and right now I'm on the dashboard page. So I'm going to go into my templates. I'm going to make this a personal template, but organization admins can also create organization templates. So in my personal templates, I've got my list here, and I'm going to add new template and then start from scratch. Now that I have a blank template, I'm going to paste my document, and we can see here it has brought across the tables that are included in the document and the text. And now I'm going to give it a title. So let's say I want to call this my initial report template. Great. So right now, this doesn't have any sort of AI powers to it. Because with Everbility, you are able to have customized reports where some sections might be generated by AI and some sections might be constant and remain throughout all of the documents. You have to opt in for the AI and create what we call prompts. So here, for example, I'm going to essentially, I want all of this information to be converted into the client's details. So I'll work through this document so that you can see how I create this template. So there are two ways we can create this section. We could turn it into a table. So I'm going to create a table with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or I could even do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'll have the reason for referral at the end. So I'm going to bring across the details. And then what I need to do is I need to turn this into an AI prompt so that the AI within Everbility can fill out the table. So I'm going to highlight any of the text in the table, click on the Everbility icon in the floating toolbar. There's also one at the top. And that's going to turn it blue, which means that all of the blue sections are going to be generated by AI. So I can see that I have a gray section. This is because the tables typically create a row header. I'm going to remove this row header because I want the client's name to be populated here. And instead, I'm going to click on the cell and then click on the 3 dots and then add a column header. So now the section that is grayed out is going to remain constant. The blue section is going to be generated with AI. And then I'm going to add in the reason for referral down the bottom here, and I'm going to write a prompt. So I want to say something like state the reason for referral. So you could make it quite generic like that. I've just unbolded. And then to turn this into a prompt, I'm going to highlight any of the text. It could be the whole line. It could be a letter. I'm going to highlight and then convert that into a prompt now. So in the free text sections, which is this white part of the screen, when you turn something into a prompt, the blue will span the width of the screen. When you turn the table, it's going to have a blue outline. So for this prompt, state the reason for referral. There might be, if you're happy with a generic description of the reason for referral, that's fine. You can leave it like that. If you want to add particular structure to your prompt, so you might say XYZ was referred by, insert the name of the person, insert the location of the referrer. So if you want more details or more structure, we can actually add this into the prompt. So state the reason for referral using this structure. You could add in what you previously had in your report. And then you can shell it out. So initial functional and psychosocial assessments determine current abilities, barriers to participation, and rehabilitation needs. For example, let's say current abilities and individualize this for the client. And then it's going to use this structure because I told it to use this structure, initial functional and psychosocial assessment to determine current abilities, ... And then I've said also individualize this for the client. So it's going to, when we generate, read through the client's notes, and then pull across information regarding the reason for referral. So that's how you can create a little bit more structure within your prompt as well. For the table, I have this blank, but I can add in additional instructions. So let's say, for example, the date of assessment, I want it to be written like this, or I want it to be written like this, for example. So I can choose particular additional prompts to add in the blue sections. If the assessor is always going to be me, for example, I might add in my name, and then I can add a row header. So that will always remain constant. They've grayed it out. For example, you might also have your APRA details here. You might have your role as a clinician here. So you can add that information in, and then that will remain. And then the referral source, I can see that I may have had employer, insurer, self, or GP. I can give those options here, and I could also say information is not known in the client selected notes when we go to click generate. So this table is one way that you can present the client's details. The other way is I'll just bring this information up here. So the table is option 1. Option 2 is to add in the client merge tags. So we do have merge tags, which you can click on the plus button, add tags, and you can add in the name, date of report, which would be today's date if I go to click generate. If you have a merge tag for date of report, it's going to go through your client selected notes and find a date of a report versus today's date. So that's why if you do have a list with merge tags for information that is constantly changing, I would recommend adding this as a prompt. So I would say something like state today's date as, or the particular format in which you would like the date to be stated. I'll just unbold that, and then I will turn that into a prompt there. And you can go through and add in all of the other client merge tags. So it's really dependent on which method you find easier. Aim here is to create a template, build it out once, and then you can use it again and again. So whichever method you find easier, you can then create either the merge tags or the table. Let's say that background information is next. So right now I have my background information in the same text as my other headings. With the Everbility template, what you can do is you can create particular heading sizes. So I'll just come back to my Word document template. I've got a larger heading here for the initial assessment report, and I have smaller headings for background information, presenting issues, etc. So I can either do this at the end or do this at the beginning, or as we're moving through the document, turn these into particular heading sizes. So I can highlight the heading. I can then select from this drop-down menu to choose if I want that to be heading size 1, if I want that to be the biggest. And then I can go through and also choose heading size 2. And then if I have a longer report, what I'm able to do is I can also copy, let's say I'm going to copy one of the letters and then go to the front and paste it here, and that's going to change the remaining headings. So I can move through and do that as well, just as a little tip. Let's keep going past the background information. So let's say I've got my table here. Again, if you're using a table format, you're going to want to add the column header to grey out this section. This section is going to remain the same. I want to grey out the details because I would like that to be to remain constant. And I'm going to highlight the text and then click on the Everbility icon and then turn that into a prompt. But as you can see here, we have the client's, another client's details here. So we can say, for example, let's say we want the age. We can say XX years, male, female. Let's say we want to use this structure. They reside, and then describe. I'm going to say use this structure so that it knows to use the exact structure. Or you might say something like specify details, or you could leave it blank if you want just a generic response and you don't have a particular structure. You might say diagnosed with, specify, and state if formally diagnosed or not. You might say describe in, let's say we want these to be in dot points, describe in dot points or list in dot points. Let's say we want list in dot points and include name, dosage, frequency. And then you can fill that out how you would like to. Let's say, for example, we now are in a free text area, not in a table. And let's say we want to create a prompt for the presenting issues. We might say, write a prompt that includes describe the client's presenting issues from the selected notes. Let's say we want a bit of structure. We want to bold keywords within. I might say that I want to list this using dot points with relevant subheadings and bold keywords in the list. So for example, right now I don't have any subheadings here, but let's say I wanted to have relevant subheadings, or let's say I want particular subheadings. So I want the subheadings to be motivation, I want it to be mood, and I want it to be productivity. I can specify here as well. So I'll highlight this text and then I'll turn that into a prompt as well. Assessment methods very similar to above with the table. Let's say I don't know how many rows I need to generate this table. So what I can do as well is I can create a table, so I can highlight just the top part. I can paste here, and then I can add a row header to grey that section, but I can also turn that into a prompt. When generated, generate the number of rows needed to convey that information. So let me just write assessment methods here, because typically when we have tables in Everbility, if you have text above it or below it or outside of the table, and that's really important information that's needed to generate this table, it can be really helpful to also place it in the row. So I'm now to delete this table, I can either highlight and then delete, or I can also click into the cell, click on the 3 dots, and then delete that table. So now I have the Who Does Assessment description of the assessment tool. So if I want to leave this, which I've highlighted, the same, it doesn't need to be generated with AI, I can just keep moving through the document. If I wanted to add in the assessment was conducted for, and then I want my client's name, then what I can do, instead of making this a whole prompt, I can add in a client merge tag to bring my client's name here. So add in the merge tag so that it's just going to pull across the client's first name. Or I might have merge tags for Mr., Mrs., Ms., etc., and then have my last name. So it's going to pull across that information when generated so that you don't need to turn this whole part into a prompt. Let's say I do want to turn this into a prompt because I have information about when it was administered, who filled out or who conducted the assessment, when was the assessment conducted, so the date, and I want to add this information in. I could say the assessment was conducted by insert person with state person who completed assessment on state date of assessment. So there's a couple of different factors in there, pieces of information that need to be pulled across from the client selected notes. So I would usually write a prompt like adapt this for the client's details. highlight this as a prompt, and then now when it goes to generate, it will fill out this information and keep this structure. Alrighty, so right now we have our WHODAS assessment results. So this is just a description. So again, if you want to keep this, you don't want AI to change any part of this, you can just move through. Let's say we have some scores. You could either have a paragraph here to state the results from the WHODAS assessment for the client. Again, you might have something like use this structure. If you have a particular structure, client and then turn that into a prompt. You could also have the scores in a table like this. So for example, for this table, I'm going to add a row header. So I clicked on those 3 dots, row header, clicked on the 3 dots again for column header because I also want to gray this out. I want to put in somewhere in the table that this is for the WHODAS so that it knows to bring across the WHODAS results. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to shell out all of the other information. So I could just do one line and then copy and paste across. So let's say I've got moderate difficulty, mild difficulty, mild to moderate, and then if other specify, and also unknown if it doesn't have the details, and then state in detail here. So I can copy and then I could delete the other parts. Just scroll back up and then I could paste in here. And then I highlight the text in the table, click on the markers instruction, and then there you go. If you had, let's say you've got another score or you've got a percentile, for example, and you want to add in another column or add in another row for the domains, you can click for the cell just before or after the column that you want to add. You can click on the 3 dots. I'm going to insert column to the right, and then I might also have percentile. If I want to create a row underneath cognition, for example, click on the 3 dots, I can insert a row below. Let's say I want to gray out this one because I have a particular subdomains. I can click on the 3 dots and then add a row header, so that won't fill out those details. So once you've created the template, what I'll do is I'll scroll back up to the top. I'm going to call this one Bella Demo so that we can then see it. So when this was currently in my templates. So now I'm going to come into Writer and then I'm going to try it out for one of my clients. I've got Sarah. I don't need to add in any context. I'm going to collapse it. I'm going to use my document panel. So here I can see that I've brought my template across. Once I'm ready to generate, I can click Use All or select particular notes or deselect particular notes. Click on either the Generate Document button or I can generate section by section if I would like to. I'm just going to click on the Generate button on the right side of each blue section. But let's say I want to generate everything. Alrighty, I'm going to scroll up to the top and then I will show you. So it's filled out the details that it does know from the client selected notes. Obviously this is a demonstration account, so it won't have all of the details here. You can either choose to, if you generate, you can undo particular prompts, add in information into the context panel, and then regenerate those sections. It's filled out the details. Here in this table, we had this as one row and it filled out the number of rows needed to convey that information. So that's great. and it's filled out all of the other prompts that I have written. So now if I want to bring it across to my Word document template, I can download it as a docx. You can now see that it doesn't have the same look as my other report. So let's say I want my headings to be particular colors, fonts, sizes, etc. So right now we have made this a heading, so you can see the change in text from the typical text as I've highlighted here. But let's say we want heading size 1 to correspond to that purple text. So we are going to make this document, or a duplicate of it, the Word document template. We might have our logo up the top, and we're going to assign these headings to be the particular heading sizes in this Word document template. So I'm going to click on Styles pane, and then in my selection here on the right side, I've got heading size 1. Now I made heading size 1 in my Everbility template here. So I want to make heading size 1 the purple. So I'm going to click on the down arrow, update to match selection. Same as heading size 2. I'll do that the same. So heading size 2, I don't have heading size 3 right now. Unless I wanted to make heading size 3, I'd have to go back into the template and also assign that. So I would make this, for example, I'm going to save this as, let's say, Grow Therapy Word document template. I'm going to save that so that I have it on my computer and I can always pull it up. It might have my header as well. I could always pull it up, and then whenever I generate anything from Everbility within my templates, I can then copy, highlight the whole thing, copy, paste here, and it's going to convert over to the styles that I would like.